Today on Chris Dyer's Creative Friends.
And I don't know if it's because I'm older now, but I don't really see that much actual, illegal street art out in the city anymore. It seemed like everybody got into murals and into a profession and into galleries, and we're like, see ya, to the roots of it, which I find sad. I've always stayed there. I like the wildness of it. Like when you're on the street painting a piece, you have to be quick, and there's all the other things happening. You're not really completely paying attention to what you're doing, and I think it creates more of a unique atmosphere for making work. Like you could be arrested, you could engage with somebody that's angry at you, or somebody that's excited, or random events occur around this thing. It makes a whole night a little adventure, you know?
Well, thanks for having me over, Derek.
Thank you.
Other Troy, so many names. Which one to pick? Did you have to get the Troy name because Other is so confusing? Every time I'm like, I'm gonna go over to Others, and people are like, Other what? Like, did that get in the way a lot in like your career? Like when people are trying to refer to you and they don't understand they're referring to a person, they're referring to. You know?
I think with the change of, because I had the name from the early 90s, and with the change of with the internet coming in, it was really hard to search my work. Like if you type in Other, you get like 5 billion.
Right. Even if you put Other art,
you know, if it nowadays, like kids, if they were Other, they'd have like 7 R's at the end of it or something like that. So it's like easily searchable.
Right.
And I had tried to start a Gmail under the name Other, but it was like it had become like Other 4,733,000. So
wow.
I just made up a name, Troy Lovegates, because I didn't want my real name because it was illegal nighttime graffiti activities. I didn't want it to like be Derek Mahaffey when I'm talking with people about books or something like that.
And you picked the most cheesy name possible.
Yeah, to me, Troy Lovegates is like a soap opera guy with a big mustache that has had like 7 wives, and 6 of them have mysteriously disappeared, and he's on to the next one.
Yeah, well, perfect for you, man.
It sounds sort of like a porno name a bit.
Nice. And has that, like, since you changed your name to this made-up name, did that help your career a little bit, or does it not matter?
Initially, like, it was nothing to do, and then because everybody named their emails for their real name, people thought it really was my real name. And I got checks in that name, like all this stuff was happening where I'm like, or people were like, hey, Troy, when they saw me on the street, and I wouldn't respond because it's not my real name.
Yeah.
So it became awkward, but at least you could search it and find it.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anybody actually called Troy Lovegates.
Hopefully. Well, Derek, I'm going to call you Derek. Thank you so much for having me in your studio. I'm so stoked. I was so stoked to hear that you're living in Montreal while me visiting here. We've known each other for at least 20 years, I think, the early 2000s. Well, so 24. When I moved to Montreal, you were like, you, LeBron, and Heavyweights were kind of like the kings of the art world and the city, may you know it or not. And I'd be like looking from afar at these warehouse parties that you guys were organizing underground down in the
Little Burgundy.
Yeah, Little Burgundy. And you'd have these hip hop DJs, but it was kind of like a rave. And the walls would be covered with art that I'd never seen before, not from Ottawa or Peru, done on garbage, done on broken skateboards, basically street art before street art became like a cool hip thing in movies and TV shows and stuff. What's your memories of that time? Like, was this something special in your heart? Why were you doing it? What was the vibe? How did you get together with these other misfits from the street?
Well, that time was amazing because Montreal was super, super cheap. So it was that studio that you're talking about was 3,000 square feet, maybe like 18-foot ceilings, all wood beam construction. And it was $1,000 a month. So
wow.
There was 4 of us living there, and it was so big you wouldn't see somebody for like a week, you know.
Wow. Were you living there too?
Yeah, so
Okay.
it was $250 each a month, and all included, like the heat and everything was included.
Wow. So cool.
So those were times when you could really frolic as an artist, and you know, you didn't have to be as stressed about making rent or surviving. You could have a lot more liberties in the sense of experimentation. And so
Mm-hmm.
every like 4 months or so, we'd have a show where anybody could put work in. There was no curatorial like dictatorship at all in it. It was like, you bring the work, you hang it up, your
Okay.
grandma can bring the work, your
Okay.
dog could make a piece with its,
Yeah.
we'll hang it all. So people started just, more and more people started coming with work and like their friends, and my next friend, 6 degrees of separation,
Uh-huh.
till we ended up, you know, having 400 or so pieces in the show.
Wow.
And with that, like 400, I mean, some of them had multiple pieces in the show, but let's say 100 or 200 people being involved in the show, you already had a giant clientele of people attending the show. So
Because
it,
everyone would bring their friends.
yeah, and they'd be like, come, I have a piece of art.
Yeah.
So we had a bar
Okay.
there, and
Okay.
we'd just buy some kegs, and then we'd make a month's rent. It wasn't even about I think we had like 10 or 15% if you sold a piece. We didn't really care. We'd rather them have most of the money,
Right.
and just like, we can easily pay our rent with the
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
alcohol.
And who were the artists? Like, if you're saying like, oh, Ray and their sister were bringing art, was the art good, or was it all like a group of like maybe like street artists, graffiti, friends?
I think it was everything. Like,
Mhm.
we'd have classic painters and photographers, and literally people's grandmothers would bring work and knitting work or anything. Like,
Mhm.
we were totally open, and not, art is such a, it's the eye of the beholder, right? So who am I to say like who shouldn't be in my show or our show or whatever? It was something just for everybody. So
Mhm.
we weren't particularly concerned about, I think it all fit together in its madness. So
Yeah.
it was fun, and it
Nice.
was more about celebrating life, and like engaging with people, and I made so many friends in those years from
Yeah. Were you
those
living with
shows.
LeBron at the time, or was
Yeah, I
he a
was
friends
living
already?
with Lebrona, 6'2",
Okay, nice.
and my friend Frank, who wasn't an artist, but he was living with us.
And 6'2" would do the music.
Yeah, sometimes you do music, sometimes we get a couple of other DJs, or Rob had somebody that he was producing in town, like some famous like backpack rapper would rap or something, or
Uh-huh.
Dead Messenger from Cops Crew guys would play, or
Uh-huh.
sometimes we had whole bands. Yeah,
That's so
it was
awesome.
great.
Like, how do you feel about those times? Well, obviously we all get bummed out. It's like, ah, Montreal used to be kind of like ghetto, and but in a way that it really held space for artists. Now coming back to Montreal after decades, things have changed. How does it feel to be back, or is it still Montreal like a beautiful place with beautiful architecture and nice people and a vibe? Or
Yeah, I mean, it still has a crazy vibe. When I go on bike trips, you I feel like it's a choose your own adventure city. You could really go out, and you could be a hard party at techno clubs, or you could just chill in the park with friends, and you can sort of choose your level of like energy that you want for the day, which I really like. And I don't think that's went away. It's just with the increase of prices, which is a worldwide thing, I think, like everywhere is sort of experiencing the same thing,
mm-hmm.
that it's priced out that like lifestyle where you don't have to worry about rent until the last like week of the month now,
Mm-hmm.
or like buying a place, forget about it. It's a different world. And when I explain it to what we did to people in their teens or late teens or 20s and stuff, they're like, whoa, like, a 3,000 square foot studio, who knows could be like $6,000 now a month, and
Right.
nobody's gonna be doing it, you know, and nobody can like having an art show like that to raise rent. You'd have to have a real
Hmm.
party. I don't know what you'd have to be selling to make that.
Right.
Not
Totally.
beer, but
Yeah, you got to be like a baller artist, and
yeah,
probably
yeah.
you wouldn't want to live in like a big warehouse anymore. You want to live in a proper apartment if you're at that level. But you always seem like you like travel around the world finding those like decaying cities with like empty spaces where artists flourish. Like I remember visiting you in Berlin. What year was it? Like 2006 maybe?
Yeah,
And
2007 or 2008,
yeah,
something.
something like that. And you had this small apartment that I think you were paying almost nothing with a shower in the kitchen that you
No, it was a
pulled out.
bathtub underneath the kitchen sink.
Right,
Yeah,
it
that
was
pulled out.
so weird.
Yeah,
And yeah, and you took me around to all these abandoned factories turned to art studios.
yeah.
Tell me
I
a little
love
about
that.
living in Berlin.
I thought that was an amazing city, and I mean, it probably was even more amazing like in the 90s, you know, when there was extra space and extra before anything had been built up between the wall, you know, there was like a whole scar through running through the whole city of just like space and
Mm-hmm.
so many buildings. And I I heard somewhere that like the population of Berlin and empty space back in the day, there was like a million empty spaces. There was so much
Wow.
open space, you know.
Mm-hmm.
The people hadn't arrived yet. Now they've arrived like from all over the world. And but that time I just felt like every day you could choose a new abandoned building to go explore and draw in, or just it was open, like you could paint on a wall in the middle of the day and people would come admire it instead of like get angry at you about it.
Yeah.
So it was a magic time.
Both Berlin at that time and even Montreal, that's still kind of like, developing, had this space to hold street artists. And this is like before street art became street art. How do you observe this thing that you've been doing for so long that probably didn't even have a term, was just this thing you were doing with like found garbage by the train tracks with your graffiti friends, and now all of a sudden it's like this like thing in museums and movies. And how do you observe it? Like, is something that you're stoked that it turned into something, of, or did it take away a little of its magic and its, you know?
Well, it was fun when it started happening and we were going to London and in these events, and there seemed like such a community of people in every city that would take you out exploring, and it was very uh, still grassroots. Like every city you go to, people would, I know these spots, and take you around. And I don't know if it's because I'm older now, but I don't really see that much actual, well, illegal street art out in the city anymore.
Yeah,
I
now
mean,
it's muralism, huh?
it's just Felix and I, or Labrona and I, like doing it all the time.
Yeah.
But yeah, it seemed like everybody got into murals and into a profession and into galleries, and we're like, see ya, to the like roots of it,
Uh-huh.
which I find sad personally. I mean, I I've always stayed there. I like that spot. I like the wildness of it. Like when you're on the street painting a piece, you have to be quick, and there's all the other things happening. You're not really completely paying attention to what you're doing, and I think it creates more of a unique atmosphere for making work. Like you could be arrested, you could like engage with somebody that's angry at you, or somebody that's excited, or random events occur around this thing. It makes a whole night like a little adventure, you know.
Yeah, no, those were so special. I remember
Mm-hmm.
even just like walking around Montreal and drinking and then finding a door and we'd all get on it.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you're capturing energy,
Yeah.
but then you're also releasing it to the city as a gift in a way.
Mm.
You're not like trying to monetize it and be like, okay, where am I gonna like, yeah, I guess we all want to get our name up, as part of the game, but it's not like, it wasn't about like, oh, we're gonna make a lot of money once my name is up.
Yeah. No, it's just I mean, it's addictive to me. It's like some strange sport I play, like hopping over fences and running and just like it's my exercise and my I'd say it like if you're driving a car or you're riding a motorcycle, like painting indoors is like, you know, I'm in my cubicle, but outside I'm free roaming and can decide what I want to draw on. And
So you're still getting in trouble or potentially in your 50s, or is it
yeah,
something
yeah.
that you want to do till you're like a old grandpa like your characters, or
Yeah, I hope to continue as long as I can see outside at night.
uh-huh. That's awesome. Even if you got busted or in trouble?
Well, yeah, every couple of years it happens.
Uh-huh.
Every time you paint, you're like, oh, I'm one painting closer to the next time I'm gonna be arrested. But
Yeah. Have you ever gotten like in trouble, like being in jail or something like that?
I've ended up in like more like drunk tank sort of lockup, totally sober, but they
Uh-huh.
didn't know what to do with me. So I've been in like in lockup for in France, Germany, Canada. I think that's it.
Yeah.
A couple of times in Canada.
And you didn't mind too much.
No, you get a fine and, you know,
Yeah. I remember
in court cases and stuff like that.
yeah. Are you allowed to walk the train tracks these days? Like we're
No,
close to it right here, right?
I just got a fine walking my dog on the train track.
Oh
You can
no.
guess how much a trespassing fine is now.
Man, everything's just so
$650.
oh wow. That's terrible.
Yeah.
I remember when
And it's
like
and
right
it's my dad like goes to this park. There's an abandoned piece of CP land,
uh-huh.
and it's been abandoned so long that where the train tracks are, like full oak trees have grown there, like
Yeah.
enormous tree, like 30-foot high trees. It must have been abandoned for like 60 years or
Why is
something.
that illegal then? Like what do you
Because
get?
it's railroad property and you're on the tracks, and he's saying this stuff and he's like, do you know how dangerous trains are? I'm like, I might be the only guy that actually knows how dangerous, but I can't tell you that,
Right.
but still
So
got the ticket.
tell me about train tracks. Tell me about trains, hobo culture. You to some degree I always see you as like a hobo painter,
Mm.
like jumping trains and getting around and getting on trains and etc. Tell me about that culture, why you like it, you know, how long have you been doing it? How many trains have you gotten on?
Like painting trains, I've done
Yeah.
for 30 years now. I
You haven't
started
counted them, I
doing
guess.
I started doing graffiti like 35 years ago, and then I found trains because a friend of mine in Toronto, Ren, was taking me to paint spots, and then we'd paint a train, and I wasn't really interested in it. And then somebody got a package. Back in the days, people used to trade photographs in the mail of trains that they saw in their
Mm.
town. And a friend got a package from Mexico, and it had some of the trains I painted in Toronto. And I was like, whoa, okay, I'm hooked. Like, if I can get, like, who cares about painting in Toronto if I could be like in every city in North
Uh-huh.
America, you know, from end to end?
Yeah.
It was such an exciting, it was sort of like the pre-internet, right? It's like messages sent out,
Uh-huh.
but you don't know who's going to receive them, message in a bottle.
Message in a bottle.
And it's such a, like a, I don't know, the magic of a train yard to me is usually you can see the city, you can see all the happenings, but it's dead silent. It's like a little paradise, dark paradise in the middle of a city, you know?
Yeah, it's like rusted and old school
Mm.
industrial times, but still running.
But hobo wise, I wouldn't say I'm like a train hopping hobo
Were
in
you at
the
any point?
jungle having campfires and stuff. I mean, I've hopped trains like throughout Canada and in the States and stuff like that. I've went on, maybe my longest rides are like 12 hours or something like that, you know?
How was
But
it?
I love it. Like the first time we did it, the first time I ever hopped trains was like sometime in the 90s, and my friend and I were getting a ride with another friend, and we got really bored and just asked him to drop us out, and we'll hitchhike and we'll meet you in Winnipeg tomorrow morning or whatever, which
Uh-huh.
was like, I don't know, 10 hours away or something. And he's like, okay. Dropped us off, and we started hitchhiking. And I feel like we were in Saskatoon in this, like, or Saskatchewan in this, like, real small town with just one silo.
Uh-huh.
And these guys drove up in a pickup truck and came out with baseball bats and were like, if you're still here at night, we're going to smash your heads in. And we're like,
Whoa.
what? And there was only like 4 houses or 5 houses and then
Oh,
like one
no.
restaurant in this town. And we're like, desperately,
Yeah.
extra thumb up,
Because,
you know, we got to get out of here. We got to get out of here. And it's the sun setting, and we see them driving by a couple of times, and we're like, oh man, what are we going to do? So the night came, we saw the car pass by again. We ran across, and where the silo was, there's 2 tracks, and a train came, and it pulled up and stopped right there. And we're like, what? So we went, it's going the direction we want to go, and we just hopped on it.
Uh-huh.
And it was a flatbed. It was like completely exposed, and it was the
Wow.
spring. So we were going 100 kilometers an hour with like hoodies on, freezing to death from the wind. All night. We didn't know which direction or where we're going at all. Like, hopefully we're getting to Winnipeg.
Uh-huh.
And I remember there was a brush fire, and like a whole field was on fire, and the train shot through it, and there was flames and smoke. The smoke was like spiraling away.
Whoa.
And we were running on the spot on this thing to keep warm the whole night, because it's like frozen.
On the flatbed.
Yeah,
Wow.
frozen like metal, you know, you can't lay on it. It just goes right through. There's
Oh,
no
my goodness.
conductivity to the metal.
Yeah.
And early in the morning, we got into this city. It looked like a crazy American city. It was rough, and there's tons of like people on the corner, all like looking like drug dealers and stuff. And we're like, where are we? And we were covered in dirt, and there was a donut shop open, and we walked in the donut shop, and there's a cop in the corner looking at us, all messed up. We didn't have a bag or anything. And I walked up to the cash, and I was like, excuse me, what city are we in? And the cop's like, what the hell, you know, like time travelers or something.
Yeah, what year is it?
Yeah.
Where was it?
Winnipeg.
Okay,
so.
You didn't get to the right place.
But it just like, I never spent that much time in Winnipeg, and we didn't know it was like inner city life, you know. So we thought, oh, we totally went the wrong way into some American city, and now we have no ID to like get out. We're gonna be screwed.
And despite that experience, you wanted to do it more.
Yeah, that got us like really excited about it, because it was such a like unique way to travel, and
Exciting.
yeah,
Adventure. So this is the 90s?
yeah.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
you didn't even have a backpack?
No, we just left everything in the car, and we thought it would be like, we didn't really think that there's certain regions of Canada where it's easier to hitchhike than others.
Uh-huh.
And like Saskatchewan was harder than we thought.
Wow. So you paint a lot of characters, a lot of humans. I know you, after decades of drawing and painting, that you could get the anatomy quite good if you wanted to, but it seems like on purpose you're like kind of like deforming them and make things elongated and kind of almost like strange, and it has a lot of wrinkles. And who are these people? A reflection of humanity?
Depends. I mean, a lot of the times I take photos of people on transit, like metros, because it's easy. They're sitting lower, and the lighting, especially in the Montreal metro, is super nice. Like, it really illuminates people, like gives them shadows, and it really brings out their faces. And I like capturing people in like a pensive form, like in deep thought. Like, usually people on the metro are like either preparing to go to work or decompressing from the day. And I find that they have like interesting faces. So I'm always
Tired.
like tired, or like who knows, maybe they're coming back from Saint Cassette, like celebration, like celebratory, or there's different stages of the Montreal metro depending on like when you're on it, you know? Like if
Mm-hmm.
you're on really early, it's the most exhausted people who work the night shift, you know? Or if you're on later in the evening, it's people coming back from a concert or some like social engagement,
Mm-hmm.
and they're drunk and happy. And
So why do you like painting people? Do you like people? Do you find them interesting? Are you
I
trying to
do. I
like
like
elevate
watching
them?
people. I'm a people watcher. I'm super happy if I'm sitting on a busy corner and just like watching and wondering about everybody's stories, you know?
Yeah, I
I
love
used
that
to
too.
play this game like you'd sit with some beers on a busy corner and you'd just try and guess people's jobs, and we
Uh-huh.
go back and forth, like everybody talking about, no, this person has this, you know, you build these extravagant lives or like these really sad lives about people, or just like,
Uh-huh.
and it kind of, I guess I transformed that into my work in a sense, that I like sort of imagining what these people's lives are like.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll use like little sections of realism or a reference, you know, and then I'll at one point I'll toss it away and start working just from my mind, or like with splotches and stuff that will I'll just figure out what they are as they're going, sort of subconscious. I like sort of just exploring. And
It's almost like you're a writer that's doing illustrations to his writing, but you don't write that much.
yeah,
It's
I
almost
do write a lot, but it's not like something that is as prevalent as my work. Back in the day, I used to always write, like especially beside my trains. I'd write weird things that I saw, or things that I perceived as like unique that I saw on the way painting, or
mm-hmm.
but I do like, because if I come to the studio, I can make, you know, 2 or 3 smaller pieces a day.
Uh-huh.
So I'm not really worried about if it's going to turn out good or not.
Uh-huh.
Like, because somewhere in the mess of all the work I've made, there'll be nice pieces. So I can be a little bit more free and experimental, and
Yeah, you can allow yourself to do quote unquote bad pieces as long as you're moving energy around.
yeah. And as I said before, there's art for somebody everywhere. So even if it's bad, or sometimes I'll be like, this is awful, and I'll put it in the drawer where I like to keep all my work,
Mm-hmm.
and look back on it 4 years later. I'm like, oh, this is great. Like, how did I not like this piece?
Right.
So, who knows?
Do you observe these people with a spiritual life or more a mundane, here's just a bunch of lost human beings in the confusion of life? Or you're seeing it from the point of view of God being like, oh, look at my humans humaning in the video game till they go back to source.
I think it's a bit of everything. Like, I uh, I tend to like faces that are a bit like sad. I don't know if sad's the word, or just like deep,
Mm-hmm.
like in some deep state
Like
kind of
sometimes
thing.
when your eyes get lost and you're thinking, it's almost like you're not even there anymore.
Yeah,
You're just pure thought, and your body just kind of like freezes in it.
yeah, I love that.
That's
And that's why I steal souls. I don't, I mean, occasionally I'll walk up to somebody and ask if I can take their photo. But most of the time I do it because if I don't get them in that state and I ask them, they're going to be like, they'll pose for me. Their whole face changes. You've lost
the
the
uniqueness of the
moment. Yeah,
moment.
yeah.
Yeah, totally.
It's contrived.
Yeah, but there's that
Or
tricky
it's their
place.
persona, like, you
Mm-hmm.
know, with the word persona, which relates back to mask,
Mm-hmm.
like in Greek times. So it's the mask that they put out
Right,
for you
they go back to the,
instead
the
of
the
their,
presentation
yeah,
instead of
yeah.
what is. But they probably never find out that you did a painting of them. Like that old
No,
guy behind you, like,
he knows.
oh yeah,
That guy knows because Pat and I were painting a mural in Gatineau, and he was like, every time you're painting a mural, people bring you food. That's how you gauge like how great a place is. The more food and beer and stuff that people drinks or whatever people bring you is like, this is such a great place. You start getting more and more into it.
Mm-hmm.
So he took it upon himself with food and drinks and like, and he's like, what are these people? And I'm like, oh, I'm painting people from the neighborhood. He's like, that's amazing. And I'm like, I'll paint you somewhere. So he posed for these.
Where was that?
In Gatineau and Hull.
Oh yeah, nice.
Yeah.
Sweet. That's so cool. You did that project with Pat.
Yeah.
Evoke, right? That's his graffiti name?
Last year around now is when we did it. Yeah.
Oh, wow. So it was only like very recently.
Yeah.
And when did he choose to dip out from his life?
It was in the spring, May 9th or May 10th or something like that.
Mm-hmm. Tell me a little bit about him. He was a great Canadian artist from our region of Ottawa, Gatineau, who did great works, worked for my brother, was very beloved.
He was, I know him since he was like 11 or 12, and he was a little skate rat that would always show up at the spots. I think his sister, would get tasked with babysitting. She'd be like, what do I do with this kid? And just drop him off with us at the skate spot for hours while she went shopping or hung out with her friends.
Yeah.
So we'd go around with him, and he was always super engaging and wanted to do graffiti from a really young age, from like 12 or 13. And
he was super talented, huh?
Super talented and super like, he didn't let anything constrain him. He just was like, he was the guy that would be like, I'm going to work on a painting for 6 months, and just like work on a painting for 6 months, not worried about anything, or like, I'm not going to paint for the next year, and just like not and go travel and help other artists up north with their, very voluntary and very giving person.
Nice.
Yeah.
It's good to be free like that. Do you ever feel you can just be like, I don't want to paint for a year? Or is it something that's impossible for your personal...
I did it. I'm like way too hyper for that. I am like, that's why I feel like I draw hands all the time, and like these weird, like I'm very like, I need to be doing something.
Yeah.
Like that whole idle hands, like if your hands are idle, you're going to be doing like,
well, it's the devil's
nefarious
tools,
things.
I think is what they say. Idle hands are the devil's tools.
I feel like I'm always need to be engaged. If not, I'll be like tapping nervously on things.
Yeah. Well, you're just channeling your energy into creation.
The summer, my mom passed away, and we moved back from the Bay Area to Chelsea, Quebec. I did work on the street, like, because it was COVID times and there was nobody ever on the street. It was like free for all you could do. But personal, like at home studio kind of work, I didn't do it for a whole 4 or 5 months. And I think that was the longest I'd ever...
Was that like a nice break that made you give a breather from the nonstop artist lifestyle that we all have to go through?
Yeah, I think so. Like I just bike around and go swimming and like think a lot.
Yeah, just exist.
Yeah. And it was quiet times too, so it was more... But I found like after that break, it was really hard to get back.
Oh, you lost your momentum.
Because Pat had always talked about, then you feel like all this, you'll have an explosion of art. And I didn't. I had like more of a like, I had to fight my way back. It's like, they say you never forget to ride the bicycle. I felt like I totally forgot to ride the bicycle after 5 months.
What did you have to do to spark your art juices again? That's a problem a lot of people have. Hi, we take a little break from our super awesome podcast show so that I, your artist friend Chris Dyer, can tell you about my brand, Positive Creations, which I have been doing for 20 years. And with this project, I share my art through different products, maybe beautiful clothes that you can use in normal life or in the festival world, or skateboards that you can ride, or games like puzzles, or kendamas and flow toys, or use slip mats for your records. Basically a lot of functional things that just add fun and magic into your existence. So I hope you like it. Check out positivecreations.net. positivecreations.net. That was not a glitch. And yeah, I'll talk to you soon. Blessings.
Push myself.
Just do it.
Yeah.
Show up.
Because normally that's what I do. If like, you know, I go talk to my neighbor Boris in the morning and I'll do a tiny drawing while we're talking. Because it's just like, I don't have to think about it. You can just do it and it's not a worry, like, kind of thing. So it was just like such a part of my being. Kind of stopping doing it was really strange.
Tell me about mediums. It seems like you got tons of mediums, acrylics. I don't know if you do oils. I know you do lithograph.
Those are linoleum prints.
Linoleum prints. Now you're doing carvings. Tell me about your movement through different mediums of expression.
Yeah, so I do oil because my oil sticks, my pieces on trains are all oil based.
Okay.
Finger painting.
Yeah.
But this comes back to my nervousness. I don't know what it is, ADHD or something. Like I can't get involved in something for too long into one medium. Like if I paint for like a week, the next week I have to draw, or the next week I have to print make, or the next week I just go out and take photography and take like references and have a week of ideas, like biking around. And a lot of my work are from stories or just little engagements with people that I see, like little strange moments that happen. And I'll write it down and want to like work on that. And sculpture was another thing I actually found here in Montreal, like in 2005, a set for carving in wood. And I picked it off the street and I tried it. It was really hard. And I put it aside, and then I found it 10 years later when we ended up moving back to Canada.
Yeah.
And started again and was like, oh, now I'm ready for this.
Yeah.
So I still have like the basic tools that I found from that time that I sculpt with.
What kind of wood do you use?
Originally, I started using basswood because when I looked it up, it's the wood with the least grain, and it's not a hardwood, but it's not like balsam, you know, it's not like a really soft wood either.
Okay.
So it's really easy to manipulate, like butter to carve. But now most of I'd say like 95% of my sculpture is made from found wood.
Okay.
So it's luckily my studio is like a block away from 2 woodworkers.
Okay.
Who repair furniture like up the street. So whatever, I work with whatever's in their dumpster on Thursday.
Okay, so you always go still dumpster diving for your materials.
So here it's a lot of maple and a lot of walnut, it seems, which are expensive hardwoods, not as easy to carve. But I feel like I'm not a very good sculptor. It's kind of basic. And I like that way, you know, not a very good sculptor, not like a super professional painter.
But it's your vibe.
The mixture of the two of them makes something that's nice.
Well,
or like brutal a bit, you know, like a bit.
It just comes off naive, not to insult you in any way. But to me, it seems like it's like naive on purpose. You allow yourself to just make it, I don't want to say anything insulting, but just like, not super like realistic and polished, you know, like Renaissance realism. It's just kind of like crude as human beings can be, you know? These are like real people. We're all crude and imperfect in some way. And this is an expression of that, as art should be.
And with finding the materials, I'm also limited to the shape that's been disposed or you know, whatever is given to me. It's like you have to find something inside of like what I wouldn't naturally want in a piece of wood, you know?
Yeah,
So
a
you're
diamond
always
in the
searching.
rough. I
Yeah.
love how you paint on garbage. Like I loved when, 2001 or two, you took me in the train tracks and we found little crappy pieces of wood. And you're like, oh, this is such a beautiful piece of garbage. And we sit there and just like paint and spray and draw. It's just so like getting out the energy. I guess that's what also got me into painting more broken skateboards, which was my thing for years after that. That
Hmm.
was your inspiration. You've inspired me in many ways in my own art. And yeah, anyways, I love it and I love what you do.
I like that. I mean, a big chunk of doing graffiti, and I've sort of made it a reality in my studio work too, is that you have to explore to find your next project, and that's my exercise. I've
Hmm.
always been like into certain sports, like skateboarding. I was into forever, but I can't really skateboard anymore. But I still have the energy for being outside and doing things. So
Finding the
it's
spot.
becoming like, yeah, finding a spot to paint, which could be like a 60-kilometer bike ride as
Uh-huh.
trains get farther and farther away from the city center, or just finding a surface, going on a walk, thinking, seeing something happen in the day that I could paint, and then finding sometimes you'll just find the perfect, you're like, this would look good. What I just saw would look great on, and then you just find it around the corner. You're like, what? It's like
It's gold.
divine intervention or something. That it's like,
Yeah, that's so cool.
so,
You were like a sponsored skater back in the day, right?
hmm.
Tell me a little bit about that. What's the years? Like,
Oh
what was your
boy.
style? Street or ramps?
Yeah, this was like started in the 80s and through the early 90s and petered out at the end of the 90s because I started getting like crazy back problems. But
Oh,
it was all street.
okay.
Yeah, I
And
would.
you stopped skating because of your back?
Yeah, mostly like I started traveling a lot and I get dishwashing jobs in these towns and I was like bent over like a dish pit for 7 hours a day and I got like my family has a crappy history of crappy back.
Oh, no.
So it started really affecting me, and then the more I skated, the more it happened. And I mean, I still go out with my son and like push around and stuff,
Hmm.
but I gotta watch myself because I'll be like, oh yeah, I'll do some manuals or like some power slides, and then I start seeing bigger and bigger stuff, and I'm like, no, I'll
Uh-huh.
be in the hospital if I,
Right.
because a couple of times I've just went for a skateboard and then 3 months later I'm still laying on my back like, oh, I shouldn't have done that.
Right.
So
LeBron is still going at it.
yeah, not he had a big accident a year ago
Oh, no
and got it
way.
some pinched nerves in his neck,
Oh,
and
no.
he hasn't been able to skate
Oh, no
for a
way.
year.
Damn.
Yeah, he's had a really rough time with it.
Because he loves skating.
Yeah, it's a double whammy, like kind of hobbling around for a year, waiting with the crazy Canadian healthcare to like sort it out,
Yeah.
and not being able to do his skateboarding. He
Yeah.
really misses.
Too bad. Well, shout outs, LeBron. We love you, man. Get better. Hope you can skate again. And well, I remember you telling me that your doctor told you like you shouldn't skate anymore, dude.
Yeah.
And
He said, "You're you evolved from like a dolphin, dude. You didn't evolve from an ape. You've got like extra vertebrae, the longest torso I've ever seen." He
really,
said, "I wish when I was doing my thesis or whatever, I had a bumped into you because your back is crazy." And
whoa,
he's like, "You should have been a water polo, something soft and like
uh huh,
not skateboarding."
yeah, all this bang, bang,
Yeah,
bang. Yeah, I still
instead
skate
of
a bit. I skated the Big O yesterday. That
nice.
was fun, but I kind of sucked at it. But I don't know. Still
Yeah,
had
I
fun.
miss it. I miss it. Uh, I mean, I'd go. San Francisco is really good because you just bomb hills, right? And you're
Hmm.
not really
But if you
being
eat
rough on your
shit,
bottom.
that's a hard hit.
Yeah, I did that this summer. I thought I almost broke my hand, because
Fell on
when
your
you're
wrist.
200 pounds, like I used to skateboard, I was 100 pounds, the same height, like 5'6'2",
Uh-huh.
and now it's 200 pounds, 6'2", and when you hit a stone, you're on the ground like
So
twice as
fast.
fast.
Yeah,
I didn't
no.
even know what happened. I was like,
Oh,
the
yeah, no,
ground.
it's the worst. Well, your art's so connected to the streets, yet as artists, we need to pay rent, and you do work with the gallery systems. You are in. I saw your art on Yves Laroche in the port the other
Oh,
day,
nice.
and I know you've worked with different galleries in California. White Walls or Think Space
Think
or
space. Yeah,
Think
yeah.
Space. Um, do you like working with galleries? Do you rather sell it on your own steam if you can? Like, you know, how's your experiences with working with the gallery system, which I personally don't hate, but also like rather just do my own thing.
For me, I like having a gallery show, because when you're in a cubicle for 6 months working, it's nice to have a celebration and interaction with your work that you're witnessing,
Mm-hmm.
and uh, and meeting new people. Uh, to me, it's super important, but it doesn't seem like it exists in as much these days. Like, most of the work I sell online, because I can't find galleries, and it's just like a lot of group shows which you wouldn't go attend unless they were really close. Like, you're not gonna fly across the world for one piece in a show or something like that.
Right.
So it's a different setting, but I miss the social aspect of it. That's why I like public mural projects or installation projects where you're engaging, and you're maybe there with a small community, and you're all having dinner together or going out for drinks after.
Right.
Like, that's what I love about those situations.
Uh-huh. Yeah, I loved when we did the first Mural Festival.
Hmm.
Yeah, I don't know where we were living at the time, but like
Yeah, I was in
Mural.
Toronto, I think.
Okay. I remember Mural brought you to paint a mural in Saint Laurent, and you're pretty stoked, and me too, because I never get big walls in my own city for some reason.
Hmm.
Uh, Former city, I guess now. Um, do you do a lot of the street art festivals, or is that
I
because
think,
the street? It seems like you gotta be like super into that scene and meet all the right people in order to get in.
yeah, it's very cliquey, I guess.
There's just so many,
And it's like, it's kind of I always took it as like the new DJ, like, right? You're up on this lift and you're fiddling with buttons, like you're
Mm-hmm.
like some at these festivals.
Yeah.
But they always want new blood, new blood, new blood. Like, so I'm 52 years old now. I think people have just like moved on, and maybe there'll be like murals here or there, and I find it better painting, murals for cities or murals for people who are just personally bringing you out.
Yeah.
And then like those festivals, they're a bit like overkill sometimes. It's like too much of a party and too much of a,
Lots of hype. It's
yeah.
like we got the new cool artists, and that's why it's good. I don't know, but I also think like it's good to bring the classics out, and I don't think it's like, oh, that person got old, so I don't like his art anymore. If anything, it's like, oh, that guy's been
No,
like killing for so long.
yeah, I don't mean in that sense of like I'm too old to paint murals. I think it's just like I've went to a lot of the festivals, and they're not gonna like, they want new people every year, like,
Mm-hmm.
because they want new walls and new, like, if it was the same people every year, people would be like, oh,
Mm-hmm.
this is kind of
Oh
weird.
yeah, no, but there's certainly enough festivals, places,
Hmm.
and lots of artists.
It's just finding out about it too, and I feel like maybe after having a kid and moving back here, I feel like a little bit cut off,
Mm-hmm.
like from, and COVID also seemed to scatter people like a lot more.
Mm.
Like, sometimes I'll look in line and be like, oh, what happened to them? It's been like 40. Oh, I haven't like engaged with this person. Like, Who
Yeah.
knows what happened?
Plus, the algorithm is just not sharing our own friends' work with us, and then you
Yeah.
forget about them till you're like, oh shit. That's why it's always important to show up in person.
Yeah.
What's your mediums for murals? Are you still spray painting, or is it like big?
No, I haven't used spray paint in murals for like a decade maybe.
Okay, why?
I hate spray paint.
Okay, why?
It stinks and that it just makes me feel like crap. And if I wear the mask, it's just like in the heat and the sun and the mural, it's exhausting. And
Because you were using the whole visor mask because you didn't even want the fuzz hitting your eyes.
yeah,
Huh?
I didn't want it. I
Yeah.
just, at the end of the day, if I say if I was at a festival and doing a spray paint piece after like 8 hours of that, you just exhausted and your brain doesn't work. And I
Yeah.
don't know. And I mean, painting with bucket paint isn't the best for you either.
Oh, really?
I mean, obviously it's got some solvents or whatever crap in it. Who knows what the colors are made out of and stuff like that.
Chemicals.
But I don't know, it's better. I don't have to wear a mask, and it's more like the painting I do.
Yeah, it's
So
more like loose and splish splashy
yeah, it's fun.
than hazy.
And it's quick. People think it's mad slow, but
Hmm.
I find it quick.
Nice. Do you got any future projects or travels coming your way these days?
In a couple of weeks, I'm going to Germany for the month
Okay.
for October to
Oh, you're gonna
go.
go to drink for Oktoberfest?
Oktoberfest is actually in the end of September. I don't know why they
Oh,
call it October.
what a lie.
Um, but I'm going to a couple of cities and probably, I think I'm going to be a lot near Aachen. So I'm like on the border of Belgium and Holland and Germany for the month, working on some projects.
Like what? Like murals or paintings, gallery stuff?
I have a friend, Robert. He brings me out like every year for the last 3 or 4 years.
Oh, cool.
Uh, Usually for mural projects or little festivals and stuff. So I think we're doing something based on like a hobo art festival in Frankfurt
Okay.
about train related stuff.
Nice. That's perfect for you.
Yeah, and so I guess I'm just giving a talk about it, which is fun, and low pressure. And then I don't know, he's like, stay for a month and we'll get some other things going.
Nice.
So maybe a pop-up show in his hometown or
Do you know what other artists will be part of it? Just locals or?
yeah, a lot of German like uh, that whole freight culture is kind of picked up in Europe recently.
Okay.
So monikers and like riding freights and stuff through Europe is like I don't I don't know, trendy or whatever right now.
Okay.
So yeah, I don't know. I don't know what to expect. It'll be fun
Sweet.
because I'm coming from a different like the heartland culture to like whatever's happened with it in Europe, what kind of tweakings and what different ways. It'll be fun to find out.
Totally.
Don't
You've
really
traveled
know.
all around the world. Do you know how many countries you've done? Hi, we take this little pause from our conversations for me to let you know that I got a brand new art book. This is my second art book, Shamanic Journey, that just came out with Last Gasp Publications. It's a 256-page book, full color, shiny, beautiful pages with full of my art, writing, stories, basically everything I've done in the last 13 years. And I worked really hard on this book. It took me months to lay out by myself, and obviously the art has been a labor of love of many years, and I've condensed it all in this beautiful book that now is available on positcreations.net. You can get a signed version, you can get an unsigned version for a little bit cheaper. And yeah, this won't run out of electricity. On this digital world where we gotta charge everything, or a solar flare could knock out the electricity of the world and you'd be like, whoa, where did all my Chris Dyer go? No, this runs on energy forever. You never gotta charge it, you never gotta water it. It'll always be there to give you new inspiration and art. And I've done this with a lot of love, you know, and I hope that you will get a copy for your own personal library. And yeah, uh, reflect yourself in it and make your own book and story of your life. But here's mine, and I hope you will enjoy it. PosseChristians.net. Thank you.
40 or 50 or something like that.
Yeah, nice. What's your favorite? Well, I know favorites are hard, but like, what's some stuff that stands out and makes you feel like, oh, that was a good trip? Like, didn't you go to like Japan with the Cops crew, like early 2000s, and you guys went with no money just to tag around Tokyo or
Yeah, we
something?
slept on the streets for like 2 weeks with a product
With product.
and Neos, but Neos bounced really quick. He got like some border problems and
Okay.
then like was bad tripping and left. But that was a fun adventure, like sleeping in between houses in Tokyo, and like we didn't have the money to escape the city because it's so expensive to ride the trains and stuff. So
Wow.
we got kind of stuck there, but it was fun.
What did you eat?
Huh?
What did you eat?
Like 7-Eleven.
Okay.
You know, 7-Eleven there's like a, you can get every kind of sushi, every kind of ramen, even the hot water is there for you to like pour it in the cup.
Oh
So
yeah, ramen and hot waters shouldn't be too expensive.
yeah,
What
it's
else for your travels stands out, or any memories?
I really liked our time in Buenos Aires
Uh huh.
because it was we were there for 7 or 8 months, and at that time it was like a free city to paint.
Okay.
Like you could just go find a wall as long as you know you're not painting on like a local restaurant windows or something, but
Yeah.
you'd like go, hey, we're gonna paint this, get all your paint, just paint all day. It would become sort of like a block party, you know. The grandma would come with cookies and people would feed you
Uh
and
huh.
like hang out with you and stuff, and you just paint whatever you wanted and they thank you.
So
It
cool.
was like very open vibe. I don't know if that's continued. I heard it was like kind of shut down.
How long were you there?
I think it was 8 months,
Eight
7 8
months.
months.
Wow.
Yeah, we went in the winter and so the summer and stayed till sometime in the middle of summer or something,
So
August or
so
something.
you just show up, or you got a contact, and they maybe help you find a place to live, and then you just figure out where to get paint and paint whatever all day for
It was
months.
like Craigslist. Edna and I went and we got like a most beautiful apartment, like a building in that Parisian style that is like popular in Buenos Aires.
Uh huh.
With a, it was 2 floors and like a little penthouse that had all the like ornate like circle windows, like Art Nouveau style roof
Mm-hmm.
with a giant balcony, and just got it off Craigslist
And
for
you just showed
mad
up with
cheap.
some savings that you had to afford
Yeah,
it?
I did a show for Yves Laroche and sold him the whole show, so we had like 20K or something, and just like we're like let's move to Buenos Aires.
Uh-huh. That's
The
so
only
cool.
problem was I was so allergic to the city. You know those trees that look like camouflage? They're probably all over Peru too.
Okay.
They're like, I think they're linden or something. They have like patches of green and white, and they their pollen is like this fuzzy white stuff, and the
Okay.
whole streets become this like it looks like it's snowed.
Uh-huh.
It's crazy all
Wow.
over.
And
I
you were
was so
allergic?
mad allergic to this city that we'd go out, I'd paint for a day, and the next like week I'd be blind. Like my sinuses, something affects my eyes,
Wow.
and I'd be, which is the worst thing for an artist, right? So I'm
Yeah,
like, I'm
yeah, yeah.
friggin', I can't see, I'm going blind. I went to the doctors there thinking I was like losing my eyesight, and they're like, no, you just have sinus problems.
Oh, wow.
So malos aries.
Myelositis. Oh, yeah, that's true. My allergies gotten worse and worse. I don't know if it's like a thing of the 40s or if there's more chemicals in the air or what, but like my nose just gets closed up so hardcore lately.
Yeah.
Does your allergies get worse?
You know what? When we moved to California, I had no allergies.
Uh-huh.
Everybody's like, it's the worst allergy place.
Yeah.
But
But there you were fine.
yeah,
And here,
yeah, I'm back in allergy hell.
yeah.
But it took like 3 or 4 years for it to kick in. I feel like it did it um, this year suddenly,
Uh-huh.
like actually in the last weeks. I
Okay.
went for a bike ride. Sometimes I'll bike back and forth to the studio. And by the hot time I came home yesterday, I was like, that same blind in the left
Oh,
eye
yeah.
thing. I was like, what's wrong?
Florida got to me. There's just so much pollen in my backyard from the trees all around, and
Yeah, there's a lot of like crazy flowers and foreign kind of, at least to Canadian, like a different flora and fauna.
uh-huh. Totally. Anyways, we're coming to the end of this interview. Thank you so much for having me over. There's a lot of artists that watch this show. So, would you have any like words of wisdom or you know thoughts on how to live a happy life of creation like yourself?
I mean, I would just not worry about what you're doing if it's possible. I know money and stuff plays into that, but just try and make as much work as you can and just keep pushing and pushing and pushing. And that's the best advice, I think, because the more of a body of work you can get and the more confident you'll get by time spent. Like, I mean, at least in the art, I can't speak for everybody because there's different million different kinds of art, but I want to like learn as much rendered and like drawing skill and stuff like that, and it takes time. I mean, I'm still feel like every year I'm like, oh, I'm getting better, I'm getting better. I look back a couple of years and was like, I can't believe that's what I was doing when I was 47.
Uh-huh. It,
So it's like you have your whole life to like it takes a whole life to get really good at something
yeah,
with
totally.
like in art.
Like sometimes I feel like I feel now I'm getting good enough, and then I'm like, just keep on trucking, dude. Yeah, yeah, it's good enough. You're the best version of yourself till right now, but just give yourself another 5 years. You're gonna take another 2 steps, and what you're doing right now will seem like archaic in comparison. So just keep on pushing forward. Do you feel like there's like a goal with art, or is the goal always in the moment of creation wherever you're at?
Well, I have goals. There's things I want to do, but you know, I've started working on comic book and stuff, which is a new angle for me. I've never really tried that before,
Mm-hmm.
and it's just I always like trying something new every couple of years to get the things flowing again.
Yeah, keep it fresh.
Yeah.
That's why you can't do a medium for longer than a week.
Hmm.
You get bored.
I think it's a bit bored, or just like I feel I've maxed out.
Uh-huh.
Like energy wise, the energy is not the same anymore. It's good to refresh somewhere else.
Mm-hmm.
Because sometimes, all you need is a walk and to go take photos and to go think of ideas or just hope something. I'm more of like the Newton where the apple just hits me in the head, and that's the idea. Like it's in the action, it's out there in the world that I find my inspiration from experience, rather than like conceptually trying to relate it to, modern times or news. It could be that, but I like finding it out in the field,
Yeah, it's almost like
partially because I need that freedom of like and time to explore.
yeah. It almost seems like you're not like I'm going to do this thing and then you do it. It's almost like you're just kind of like peeling an orange and then you find the artwork under it. You just got to peel.
Some mornings I get up, I'm like, I'm gonna go to the studio. I'll go drop my son off at school, and then I'll walk over, and it's really nice. I'll walk over the mountain here, and I'll just keep walking, and I'll walk right by my fucking studio and go, and end up like in Anjou or something, like on the river, like looking for old bottles or rocks or looking at stones and just
Uh-huh.
like playing and never even getting any work done, and just having like my whole mission just completely changes.
Right.
And then I'll be drawing on a train somewhere, like, how did this happen, you know?
My brother Peru was telling me you were like digging in front of his street for old treasure.
Hmm.
Like, so they're digging up my brother's street, and this Montreal's old, so I guess there's like old shit found in there. What have you found?
Well, his place, I had to break it to him, was built on an old dump
Okay.
from the 18, I think it's from the 1880s
Okay.
to, I don't know when his house was built, but probably in the early, like end of the
Beginning of the
1800s, early 1900s or something like
early
that.
20th century.
Yeah. So it used to be a train tracks and a military base of some sort, and the city ended at the other side of Parc La Fontaine, right
Uh-huh.
there. And back in the day, there was no dumps per se. Like people would just make a day of it. They'd go to the park and like burn all their like vegetable or refuse or bones or whatever,
Uh-huh.
and just leave them in a field and throw bottles and stuff. And over they say every century, a foot of dust and dirt and stuff builds on top of it. So, and then the city's built on top of it. So when they rip up the streets, underneath is anything that anybody's discarded 140, 150 years ago.
Wow.
So I collect old bottles and stuff.
You got a couple treasures in here you found?
Yeah, there's some little bottles, some like that old whiskey flask there.
This?
Right, yeah, that.
Oh,
It's like a
nice.
big.
Wow.
It's from, and it's got a glass top on it, like
Oh, wow.
before they.
They did twist tops.
But I saved that for my friend, for Juan Carlos, to make a painting on.
Juan Carlos Noria?
Yeah.
That's awesome. Didn't you find like a pipe with like some skull fingers or something?
Yeah, I found a pipe in a hand, and it's like almost like an acorn that he's holding. You find lots of. Yesterday, I found, like passing by there on the way home, I found a bottle that said from the 1890s, and it just has embossed on it Eiffel Tower fruit juice, like the weirdest stuff. Or
So cool.
sometimes they're old like iodine bottles, and they've just got skull and crossbones and poison or
Wow.
not to be taken written on them, like a very amazing. I don't know. I like finding these old artifacts. It's just like another new hobby that's happened in the last 10 years.
So cool.
And it's not so much digging as like it's like a pie cut or a cake cut.
Okay.
They like excavate the street, and then you look at the
At the
6 foot deep side of the
wow.
wall, and you'll see all these things stick because it was just a pile of garbage.
Are you allowed to get in those holes?
No, everything I like doing, the cops come. So it's if it's skateboarding, painting trains, hitchhiking, you know, or it's like everything that's fun is illegal.
Right. And I just
We got last year. I go bottle hunting with a 70-year-old man. This guy Raymond Royale, like really interesting chap who has an amazing bottle collection. And I had just got that trespassing ticket that I was telling you about for $650.
Okay.
And we're looking, and somebody called the police because when you're in a construction site, they probably think you're like trying to steal some big piece of machinery or like whatever tools they have left around, or just like wood. And I see these cops running at us. And I'm like, I'm out, Raymond. And I could see him struggling because he's like older.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, I guess I can't leave you. I just don't really want to
abandon
deal.
you.
And the cops came, what are you doing? And I'm like, we have all these old bottles. We're just collecting bottles. And they look at each other like laughing, like,
oh yeah, these guys
losers.
are weird.
That's
so
they
cool.
totally didn't understand.
Would you paint on these old pieces of historical?
No.
Just let them be as they are.
I know there is with a hobo train painting culture, there's like trading bottles with your moniker and stuff on it, which is a big thing.
Okay.
But I wouldn't do it with these ones. They're too precious.
Yeah. You want to
Some of them can be worth like thousands of dollars. And
really?
Not that that's like why I do it, but.
Nice. I really like this shelf. Did you build this yourself, or you just came with it?
No, my neighbor gave it to me.
nice. It's
Yeah.
perfect for your collection of art and
Yeah,
stuff.
it's great little like projects to do kind of shelf. I got all these up and coming shapes I need
Nice.
to paint.
Dude, being in your studio really gets me inspired to like shut off the world and throw myself in art madness. I just love the stage that you're at. Happy you're still so productive and talented and constantly growing. And yeah, thank you for having me over, man. Love you. Woo! And love you guys too. Thanks for watching our episode of Chris Dyer's Creative Friends. Make sure to like, subscribe, comment, share, all those things that you do to help this channel grow and share these beautiful creative people. And I'll see you next time. Blessings! Woo! Thanks, Derek.
Thank you.
Next episode, Taurus Energy.
The world is so unpredictable now and things are moving so fast, and I made a painting about this once of trying to tap into how much control do we really have over the human destiny. You know, because Terence McKenna talked about this a lot, about the singularity. Like everything's going towards this point, but it's a constant expansion of novelty to the point where we can't even discern reality anymore. And I think I try to always show the light and the dark. And I think that this reality has those elements to it. Everything has a positive and negative reaction. You know, if you ever go through a dark or a difficult time, you can kind of hold on because you know that when you get through this, you're going to find some real beauty. You know, and I think when we really tap into that, we feel so much lighter.
So please make sure to subscribe, like, comment, and share. Big thanks, and see you next episode. Peace.